Hi, I'm Kari Tillman. I'm with the Brett Torino Foundation. Thank you for joining us at our Be 100% podcast, where we inspire people to be 100% in no matter what you do in life. So I lovingly call our guest today Bache because, I don't know, we've always called each other by our last names, which is hysterical, but he's also known as Brooklyn at camp. And Chris and I, actually introduce yourself. Tell everybody who you are.
I am Chris Bache. I am the president of Sunshine Nevada Organization.
Thank God you are.
Yeah, I know. I don't know how that happened.
So Chris and I have been longtime friends. He's one of my dearest friends. We don't see each other enough, but I literally, when people tell me or ask me who's an exceptional human that you know, he is one of the first individuals that comes to mind. Just such a genuine guy. He's super authentic. Always brings out the best in people and situations. And so I'm really excited to have him here. When I created Camp TLC in 2010, that was a very lofty goal. Autism was relatively unknown at that time. And the reason I did is I have a nephew. His name is Brody Lucas. And Brody was diagnosed with autism. And so I noticed that he had no social experiences. At that time, autism was just literally, it had such a huge stigma attached to it that you were just prone to outbursts and you're an angry child, and it just had so many negative things attached to it. And so I thought it would be great if he had a social experience. So then I started searching for camps for him to go to. There wasn't any. We had this ranch. We were already doing camps. So it naturally happened, right? And so then we started in 2010, the first year of TLC. Were you here? Were you here the first year?
Yeah, I was here the first year.
You were here the first year.
Yes.
And that was your first year volunteering with us.
It was, but my first camp was the camp for the foster children from St. Jude's Ranch.
Right.
The one that we did at Uncle Al's Ranch in Sandy Valley.
Exactly. So we had done a different camp. Chris volunteered. We looped him into TLC pretty much because through another dear friend, Julie Nybakken. And Chris is just an extraordinary volunteer. And so Chris then got hooked. And thankfully he did. And that's how we ended up getting Google, which Google did. We did an interview with Google earlier. So Chris has come in as a volunteer, but then Chris you've played every role at camp. Tell everybody about that, like your years here.
Yeah, well, the first year for Camp TLC, I was a counselor. Mm-hmm. And that was when it was brand new and there was the stigma attached and it was hard to get volunteers. And so we were a smaller camp. So yeah, started out as a counselor. Then next year, I think, I was in activities. Next year, I was an activity director. A year or two after that, I became the camp director. So
through our interviews, everybody that's listening to the Camp I Am TLC interview sessions, everybody sees that if you're good, you rise the ladder really quick, right?
Yeah.
So I guess the rule would be not to be good at anything. I'm just joking.
But it's like in any business.
It is.
And so
you get rewarded for being good.
Yeah, and if you look around at our team now, who are all volunteers, as we're 100% volunteer now, for the most part, everybody runs a successful business off the mountain as well, with big staffs. Whether it's the people who run our water, the people who run our safety, the people who run our autism experts, the kitchen team. Mm-hmm. Everybody is doing this off the mountain, whatever area they're in, and they're successful because, you need successful people to make this program work efficiently.
Yeah.
And that's the only way to run a program like this, is to do it efficiently. Otherwise, it can go awry very fast.
And then you really jumped in. I remember, so I was directing, Julie was co-directing, but you became part of that team really quick. Like, I remember just thinking to myself, like, starting to rely on you more, and you took on more responsibilities. You started, recruiting volunteers. You two have brought up, like, I think every family member you have at some point, right? So we all bring our family. They're all...
Yeah, this year I have 3 cousins, my sister,
nice.
my 2 nieces.
Your sister's here?
My sister's here.
Oh my God, I have to say hi.
They all flew in from the East Coast.
Yeah, that's extraordinary.
Yeah.
They fly in from the East Coast. I mean, that's how dedicated they are.
Well, they see the videos of what we've done online over the years, and they want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with me. The program itself draws and brings people in.
Yeah, well, it does have a little bit to do with you. I mean, you're very inspiring, and I think that when people see it, sort of like Google, when we were interviewing her, she was glowing. I mean, she was just so beautiful, and she's saying, "This is my calling. Like, this is who I am." And she, she wouldn't be here. She wouldn't have had that experience if it weren't for you. So. Your ripple effect is huge too.
Thanks.
But so going back to your first year as a counselor, like if you were not aware of autism in the way that you are now. Obviously, you're educated now more than ever. But what was that experience like? What was your counselor experience like?
Yeah, it was scary. So I wasn't looking for a volunteer opportunity. I went to get insurance for one of my businesses at the time, and Laura, you remember Laura, the lady that was my insurance broker at the time, said, "Hey, are you doing anything this weekend?" And in my head, I was thinking, this lady asking me out? And I'm like, no, I'm not. And she's like,
"Oh boy,
we need male counselors for a camp for foster children from St. Jude's Ranch." I was 35. I'm 50 now. I was 35. I'd never really done any volunteer work. I'd always been focused on personal growth and growth in, the entrepreneurial world. And I said, yeah, I'll do it. So that we did one night camp there. That one was very different than the autism one. But what was different about that one is those kids weren't going back to a loving home like a lot of these kids get to go back to.
Right.
Those kids were going back to a challenging situation in a beautiful place of St. Jude's Ranch that does amazing things, but no mom, no dad. Few of them had siblings there. And so that was super sad. But that was one night. And then, yes, when we did the autism camp after that, I remember I was in a cabin with 6 kids, and I was in charge of the cabin. I had no idea what to expect, but you quickly learn that as long as you're willing to drop everything and just be there for them, then you'll be good at this.
Yeah.
And but yeah, it's super scary. You don't know what to expect. You're told that some of them have challenges expressing themselves. Sometimes they can't speak at all. Some of them need assistance using the facilities. Some of them are incredibly picky eaters, and getting them to eat is a challenge. And in a 3-day program, they have to eat. And so you're faced with all these challenges that I've never been faced with in my entire life. And but if you get through it all, when you get through it all, it changes you as a person. And I've always said that one of the reasons I continue to do these things is the impact that we have on the volunteers. And as a volunteer myself, that's what happened to me. And I see it happening to everybody. The bonus to me is the campers. They love it. I mean, how do you not love what we're doing here?
Just being kids.
But changing the course of the lives of these volunteers, that has a rippling effect, to use your words there. And I love that. But it's not easy. I have to tell our counselors when I'm doing, training and our first meetups, to see how their first day went. I remind them because it's challenging. They're dealing with everything that I dealt with in my first camp, many of them, and I remind them it's not easy. And if it was easy, these programs would be a dime a dozen. There's very few programs that do what we do here.
Right.
And the reason is because it's hard. And so that's what I remember it being. I remember it being hard, but rewarding.
So, though, would you say the fear factor was unwarranted in the end after you came through it and you were
Absolutely.
Like, okay.
There's nothing to be scared of.
That's
here.
Yeah.
I mean, some people who don't have that right juxtaposition in life, maybe they should be fearful.
Right.
But if you're well adjusted and you're here for the right reason and you're willing to be there for your camper, there's nothing to be scared for. Plus, the amount of support systems that we have here is crazy. There's different layers of help and support in all different areas, whether it's our nurses that are here to help with different areas, food and beverage, our BCBAs.
You're not alone. So in other words, you're not brought up here, handed a kid, and we walk away from you and say good luck.
No, absolutely
not. That's not how it works.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
And that's why we, anymore, we don't struggle with obtaining volunteers. We have to turn them away. We've turned so many volunteers away just this year because they come through friends and families. We have over a 90% return rate. Not that they come back every year, but they come back at some point in the future years. They come back because they have a great experience and they want to bring a friend or a family member, but we can only have so many people up here. And at some point, you have too many people, then they're just floating around, and that's never good. You want to keep the people busy up here, the kids and the volunteers.
Yeah.
And so we want to make sure that everybody has a job. And while there is a lot to do, there's only so much to do at the same time. So we've had to turn them away. That's a fantastic problem to have.
It is a fantastic problem. And not everyone's meant to be a volunteer, and definitely not a camping volunteer, and then not a camping volunteer with children with autism or any type of chronic illness. Like, sometimes it's just a little too much for individuals, and we've had, I would say, like 10% fallout, right? Like, most people do fit.
Yeah.
I always tell people too that are considering if they're single, I'm like, it's the best singles dating, like, app on the planet, because you meet people that are up here for all the right reasons, right? At least 90% of them. And then I've always told people too, I've developed 3 of my dearest and closest best friends, here at camp. And they're lifelong friends. They're not seasonal.
Yeah.
They are lifers.
Same.
And it's so cool to me, right, to be able to say that. So
there are at least 5 couples here that met either at camp or through autism.
Yeah.
Just this very weekend, including myself. My daughter started volunteering as a counselor in training when she was like 12 or 13. She loved the autism world, went on to be an RBT, worked for a company that was owned by a woman named Amber, said, you should meet the woman that owns my company. Amber wound up coming to camp, seeing what we do. A year later, we started dating. 2 years later, we got married.
Yeah. That's happened a lot up here.
Lot.
And then there's
5
also
here right now.
Yeah, and then there's also been a lot of camp babies. Not that they made it here at camp.
Hopefully not.
Maybe, but
we
don't promote that, right?
Sure, yeah.
But meaning, like, even Google, like her whole family was basically birthed, coming to camp.
Absolutely.
Like, her babies were up here with her, and that's a really cool experience too. That it's very accepting of volunteers and supporting their system so that they can come up here. And then Spidey, his kids now are counselors, and we were joking earlier when we interviewed Spidey. I said, when are we handing the torch off? And he's like, right now. And we were just it was, and they loved it. They didn't say no. So it's pretty cool when you see the new generations starting to get really engaged and want to be that. So speaking of like retiring, obviously, yes, I had been doing camps for 23 years. I was exhausted, and I knew I needed to make a change. But it was,
is that the number 23 then?
23.
Just make sure I know it's
that's I know. I still don't know. It's all sort of blurry and fuzzy still. But the best years of my life, I feel extraordinary about the legacy, and the ripple effect and all those beautiful aspects. But I remember for years I was trying to part, probably for at least 2 to 3 years, and I was so filled with so much pressure because I didn't want it to go away. And so then 2019 came, and I really was vocal with the board and saying, my time's up, I'm good. And you were so engaged. And I remember just thinking, but I never thought this. I really didn't. I remember thinking to myself, oh my God, Chris would be amazing at this. He's so natural, and you had really taken on such a leadership role, and it gave me some reprieve because I just was feeling, definitely older. And so then 2019 came, and I really wanted to make a transition, but I was going to do it soft and just sort of edge out and find a replacement. We had talked about it several times because you served on the board. And so then when COVID hit and, the world sort of shut down, and then you and I were having this conversation. I remember it so vividly. I was driving in my car, and we were talking about, the succession type program. And you said, what if and you just, I was speechless. You offered yourself to like step into this role and modify the organization to where it's perfect, We did programs every month. It was a full-blown 501c3, still is, but we were monthly and fully engaged in the autism community. And now it's really not a camping organization, but primarily. And but when you said you would step in, I remember just thinking like you literally just landed from heaven, no joke, because I had such pressure. You couldn't have been more ideal for me. And it was very selfish because I was like, here is the crown. You can wear it now. And then you move into the role. And I was just surprised, that you had offered that. So what, how did that come by way of you? Like, what were you thinking? What were you feeling? Why did you feel like, oh, I want to do this in a different role and step into it? Like, what happened then?
So I do remember it. And I had was fortunate enough. I've been an entrepreneur my whole life, and I have more failed businesses than I care to remember. But I happen to have one super successful, that one that we exited in 2018, and so that kind of lined up with you feeling like I've done my part, and you did in this world, and you did all that for me too to get me in this world. And it was like, what's next? I don't have that. I never had that desire to want more than I had, and so I didn't want to. I didn't want to go back to work. I didn't want to start another company and chase.
You were
anymore.
Looking. I remember, like you were really seeking something.
I was trying to find something.
Yeah. Okay.
And I was like, "You love this. Like, why? What do you look? It's there. Sometimes it's right in front of your face."
Yeah.
And I remember saying, "I love what we do, but I really love camp.
Yeah.
We'll do the camps.
Yeah.
I'll take it over.
Yeah.
We'll do it. With your help the first couple of years to maintain the sponsors and the donors for sure. But we'll do it, and we'll continue to do it, and we'll try to do it as good as it's ever been done."
And you guys do. It's so amazing. I mean, all of you. I'm so thankful for all of you because I didn't want to walk away and let everyone down.
I get it. I get it. You didn't.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know it gets emotional.
Of course it's emotional. It's your whole life. It's your life's work, but this is your life's work. You should take pride in what you did here.
I do. I do. I walk around here, and it's just really exciting now to step back and enjoy it instead of being responsible for it.
Yeah, I get that too.
I mean, truly.
I know.
And I think sometimes, like, I know certain time of year when things are happening, I'm like, I bet you Bache is cursing my name right now. Like, a few times, because some of it's just really hard work. Like I liken it to going on a cruise for 5 days, right? You are transporting lives into this oasis that is an hour outside of town. So it's not like you can run to the nearest Walmart, And so you really have to prepare. And I mean, the team just makes extraordinary efforts seem like this seems like it's turnkey and it's pretty easy, but nothing is further from the truth. Like
that's right, 100%.
Yeah.
But so much of the program of what we still do is exactly what we did 15 years ago in my first year.
I know.
I mean, from the dances to the way we serve our meals. But we've been able to build a great team. And most of that team was they were here when you were running the organization. We've been able to add to that and been able to plug some holes that we used to struggle with, finding lifeguards or finding safety people. But they come up. We've been able to show them what we do, and they fall in love with it.
Yeah.
And so it's a trickle-down effect. At some point, I'll be sitting in your chair, maybe not doing this.
I know.
But I'll have the tears in my eyes, and because I miss it, and I'm sad that I'm out of it. But I'll be happy that it's still going, and the legacy lives on, and we're still touching as many lives. But hopefully, to be honest, I really hope Sunshine Nevada does not have to exist.
Yeah.
Because autism continues to grow. When we started, it was like 1 in 80. Then it was 1 in 64 10 years ago. In the last 10 years, it's doubled. It's like 1 in 32 kids are impacted by autism.
Yeah.
1 in 32. If that number doubles again in 10 years, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
We need, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. I'm never going to find a cure.
Yeah.
But I'm very good at this.
Right.
And there's not a lot of people who are going to be able to exceed me in this. Now, we don't need them to. We need them, though, to dig in and find out what's causing this. I don't have an opinion, or how we cure it. I don't have any thoughts on that. But the goal would be to not have to do autism camps.
Yeah.
It would be to find another area of opportunity to serve underserved kids and grow. I would hate to think we're doing autism camps 10 years from now. That would break my heart.
Yeah. I look at it too as like, we just, more than anything, I think we just need to learn to accept it and accept them and accept the differences that we all have. And we tend to just focus on autism because it's become a label that we're all familiar with now, right? But, there's a lot of behavioral things out there and challenges with kids. And it's not just because they're having developmental issues. It's like it's being human.
Yes.
You know what I mean? We all have our outbursts. We all have
Absolutely.
our ways. We just keep them well hidden. They don't, you know?
Well, it's a spectrum, and we're all on it.
We're all on it.
We're all on it.
I
Just
fully
different
admit I'm somewhere on that spectrum, and some days I have much more extreme spectrum-oriented days,
Yes,
you know?
of course.
And it's okay, you know? I'm human. I'm doing the best I can, and so are they. So
I remind so many of these parents when I'm meeting with them before camp or talking to them on the phone, and they'll tell me things like, he's such a, or she's such a picky eater. And I remind them, my child does not have autism, and my child is the pickiest eater there is.
Yeah.
So sometimes they use that thinking that the behavior that they're seeing is a result of that, but sometimes it's just a result of being a kid or being human, like you said.
Being 13, they want to lock themselves in the room all the time. Well,
Absolutely.
I don't know any teenagers that don't want to.
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
And these kids, the vast majority of them are growing up in a world that I didn't grow up in.
Yeah.
They're connected to technology. They're influenced by people. I have no idea who these people are. Many of them spent some of their key years in a school that was closed down for 18 to 24 months during COVID. And so they're experiencing some things that none of us ever had to do.
Right.
And then we're asking them to execute and operate in a way that we did. And it's unfair. It sets unrealistic expectations.
Yeah. I think it's interesting too, right? We have this sort of, and it is, I guess, a box that we try to fit the standard human into. And if you're outside of that box, something's wrong with you. And you know what? It's just, we're all different. Like, you know, it's sort of like that color outside the lines game. And I think it's extraordinary because it's okay. It's okay, you know? So
It is okay for that person. But make no mistake about it. For the moms and the dads.
Oh my gosh, extraordinary.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It's an extraordinary. It's life altering for
is.
many of them.
It is.
It's something that they go to bed and trying to figure out, well, what happens when I'm not here? What's the succession plan to take care of my son or my daughter?
Yeah.
And while yes, we're all on the spectrum somewhere, realistically, the part of the spectrum that's in great need will always be in great need. They may not realize the struggle that they have. Some of them do, but many of them don't. But those who are taking care of them and those around them see it and are dealing with it. And that's the part I talked about, how I love doing this for the volunteers, obviously for the campers. That's the easy one, the volunteers, but the families, giving mom and dad that respite, giving the families that break and to see their child being independent, living independent. Some of them, many of them for the first time ever, that is really satisfying. Showing them that what their kid is capable of. And it never fails. They say, my son or my daughter's never going to climb the rock wall. They're never going to swim in the lake. You're never going to get him to eat this. He's never going to sleep in a cabin with 9 other kids. Check box, check. They do them all and they're like, wow. And I'm like, yeah. Sometimes they just need somebody and something different in their lives.
And a different location, a different environment where they feel like they actually have some autonomy and to, you know, to authentically be who they are. And, you know, we try so hard, I think, just to really protect them. Sometimes it's a little suffocating.
And disconnected. So we're up here and we're disconnected.
Yeah.
Because this is awesome, but if they're in their cell phones or they had their iPads at night, it don't work.
No, it wouldn't.
You have to be disconnected.
Yeah. I think the parents too, though, the families in particular would feel not so much pressure if there was more public support, more knowledge around autism, more lack of staring and thinking your child's misbehaving and you're a terrible type parent. You know, you still see that happening. And I try to always tell people, you have no idea what circumstances are going on over there. So if you can just be helpful, be helpful. And if you can't, walk away. At least don't make it a stage for some kind of show that's happening. So, you know, and I think parents feel that way. I know all the parents that I know, some of my dearest friends have children with autism, and they feel like, you know, that they're sort of singled out in many ways still.
And they are.
And it's disappointing that we haven't come further.
Every year, there's always a handful of applications where mom or dad they leave some parts out.
Yeah.
And I want them to be as honest as possible so I know exactly, so we can be prepared.
Not so they get denied.
And then when the behavior or the activity, sometimes it's not even a big deal sometimes. When it happens and I call home, or we call home, one of the staff calls home, they're like, oh yeah, that happened. And it's like, well, why didn't you put it in the app? And they say, I was afraid.
You were going to turn them away.
I was afraid you were going to turn them away. I mean, how does that not bring tears to your eyes?
I
And I
know.
get it. I completely empathize with
No.
these families.
I know to what extent personally that we all did, but you guys in particular go to accommodate, children that have some more extraordinary behaviors. And, that's the coolest part is those families, they need respite. They need a break just as much as anybody else, and just as much as their child wants to be free. They just want to be free for a moment and take a breather. So
there's usually 1 or 2 kids every year that I have to call mom and dad and say, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
But in the safety of your child and the staff, we can't accommodate. We try to find alternate camps, day camps that we sponsor for them. We send them to Andrew's Sports Social Camp, which is a great program. They could sleep at home.
Yeah.
But sleeping overnight in an hour outside of civilization for a kid that elopes and may wander around the cabin or the campsite at night, it's not good for anybody. So you have to have those challenging conversations. Fortunately, not very often. We're able to accept so many kids, and that's because of the staff. Of the 100+ volunteers, 20% of them work with kids with autism for a living. 5 to 7 of them are master's level people who work with kids with autism.
Yeah.
You layer that with the 3 professional nurses and the professional security team, the professional lifeguard team. I mean, you've got the best of the best here looking out for the safety and well-being. So we're able to accommodate all different scales of the spectrum.
Yeah, the support system up here is phenomenal. It really is. I mean, I would never even feel hesitant in any role, but obviously I have a lot of experience too.
Doesn't mean it doesn't keep me up every night.
No, of course not.
I sleep less here than ever.
Yeah.
I sleep less here than ever.
I know you do. So funny because out of all the interviews, yours is definitely a little more some volunteers listening out there, potential volunteers are probably like, I don't know, after listening to Brooklyn, I might not consider this. Google's like, come on. And Josie's the same way. And I was laughing so hard because now I'm like, okay, so tell volunteers something that would inspire them to not be afraid of even the challenges. Like, what do you say? I know you have some really great ways of inspiring people to come up here because a lot of volunteers are here because of you. So what do you say to people out there considering it, but very fearful now after your interview?
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay. Let me think about that for a second. Whatever I'm saying is working because I'm the one that's speaking to the groups of volunteers.
I know.
But I'm honest. And
You're honest. You are.
I think if you sugarcoat it, and I'm sure my team did not sugarcoat because they know.
No, they're real, but just leaning more towards, all the reward.
All the reward, yeah, as opposed to the potential challenges.
Yeah.
So I just did a presentation for a group of young entrepreneurs who want to be philanthropists in life, and I remind them that there's more to life than just chasing money, right? Yeah. And there's so many great causes, though. I don't care if you choose autism. Whether it's kids living with cancer, kids who are struggling with heart disease or heart challenges, find something. There are so many beautiful causes in this world.
It is.
I ask you to look to autism because we could use help. Thankfully, the cancer organizations and some of the other organizations have been around a very long time, and they have lots of support. Autism does not. No. It's super new, on the scale of these types of disabilities. It's very new. It's not very well supported. People are a little scared of it, like we're talking about. But the good part is when you get involved in those other organizations, you can make a little difference for sure. And if that's the way you want to go, but you get involved in our organization, you can make a massive difference fast. You'll feel it. You'll see it. We're small. You'll have a say. You'll be able to get involved. And if that's something that you're looking for, most of the time, those are the types of people that I'm speaking with. People who are looking for something where they're not just a body.
Right. And it's not just this one-off. Like, you become part of a family.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's...
Absolutely. I mean, we're in each other's weddings here.
I know. Like, it's wonderful.
It's a true family.
We're always all concerned about everyone. Like, it's a beautiful thing. It really is. So for me, you are truly like an angel from heaven, obviously, for many reasons. But just, I think you're so extraordinary, Chris, in the way that you engage and you're just so authentic. And, it'd be lovely if the world was filled with more Chris Baches of the world.
Well, you're sweet. Had I never volunteered for that foster camp, I would not be sitting here to this day. And what's kind of crazy is there's a lot of people here that wouldn't be sitting here because it is a trickle down effect. And so you're still at the top of the pyramid, by the way. Whether you're here with us or not.
It's so funny though. You do not shy away from challenge. Like that foster camp was our most challenging program we ever did.
Oh yeah, that was a tough one. Watching those kids go away on the bus with their faces pushed against the window.
I know.
But then we also did one for the kids living in the shelter with their moms from abusive homes. I mean, that was.
I know.
These were difficult camps.
Very difficult.
Fortunately, the vast majority of these kids get to go back to beautiful, loving homes.
I know.
What I also tell the volunteers, we play the same music. Music and dancing, song and dance is a big part of what we do here. We play 3 songs every year. We play Man in the Mirror, which is a good reminder to take a look at yourself every day and make sure you're having a positive impact on this world, right? We play Don't Stop Believing, which is a good reminder, to believe in yourself and follow your dreams and take that chance. And then we play The World's Greatest to remind yourself that, you are the world's greatest. Doesn't matter if you're successful in A, B, C, or D. You are the world's greatest, and you can help others be the world's greatest themselves. So we tell them to take a little bit of camp off the mountain with them and bring it down into the valley and spread that kindness and that love. And those are the types of people we want here. So this might not be for everybody, but we don't need everybody to make this happen. We need the right people to make this happen.
We need the right people, for sure.
And if people are looking to, to live that type of mantra, this is a great place to be.
Speaking of right people, so how do you make this camp happen? I know it's expensive. So what does that look like?
It is expensive, and there's a lot of moving parts to it, but we've got some incredibly generous sponsors.
I know. Would you like to thank them?
Yes, always. We thank them every year. Right on the top and back of our t-shirts, there are 2 that significantly impact the success of this organization. Obviously, Brett Torino and the Torino Foundation and the Marlin Family Foundation. Those are the 2 organizations that since the very beginning have sponsored these camps, and fingers crossed, hopefully will.
I know. The Marlins are just an extraordinary family, very open-minded, just wanting to support from the very beginning. When I had met with them and did a presentation, I remember thinking, this is just such an iffy camp, and they hopped on board and sponsored the entire thing. That to me was just a game changer. It's like I knew at that point this camp was meant to be.
So you introduced me to them, and over the last couple of years I've gotten to know them. They do some beautiful things, not just for our organization, because, I like to bring them a gift after every season, small albeit compared to what they donate for us. And they walk into this room where they put it on this wall that's just filled.
Isn't it amazing with all the fire?
With so many charities that they do so many beautiful things for us. So they're touching so many lives out there.
Beautiful family.
And Brett Torino, the Torino Foundation, is far more than just this ranch, as we all know. I mean, this is a fantastic place to have camp, especially for our kids who can't travel outside much further than here, to have this backdrop.
I know. And free of charge.
Free.
It's crazy, right?
It's even more than free.
Do you like our podcast station? I mean, who has this?
Nobody.
Everybody says this is the most extraordinary, beautiful, lovely.
But it's more than free. It'd be one thing if it was like, unlock here. The amount of maintenance and upkeep on this place throughout the course of the year, but not just the facility, not just like making sure it looks beautiful and making sure everything is, the way it needs to be. We're in the back of Level Canyon that at one point, over the 15 years wasn't an easy place to drive through. They were shooting guns down the road. You would hear the gunshots at night because there was a range that they allowed people to come and fire. And it wasn't always the best area.
No, definitely.
Brett's worked super hard to clean up Level Canyon.
He has dedicated himself to preserving this canyon.
Now you drive from Highway 160 here.
And it's a camping. It's beautiful. People are out there camping, respecting the property. There's no more, shooting ranges and things like that. So he's made it a real safe place.
There's a lot of cost to all that. Not just financial cost, but emotional toll that gets taken and risk that comes along with it. And takes a lot. It's taken
many years. I mean,
I know.
When we got it was 1994, and ever since then it's been just tons of work. This ranch wouldn't exist the way that it does without Moy and his team, and I mean, it's taken a big tribe to make this place what it is today and to maintain it.
I always tell people when I'm doing tours, I like to show this place off like it's mine.
Yeah.
It's obviously not mine, but I like to show it off like it's mine. I take pride in it, because you know, we get to be here, but we take pride in taking care of the place. And so I like to showcase the ranch, but I like to tell the story of, I like to remind people to go online and look and see what this place looked like before it looked like this. Because it did not always look like this.
Our
It was an
website
RV
has
park.
some.
Yes.
It was a dilapidated rundown. I remember when Brett first brought me up here, and I looked at him, and I'm like, he's a visionary, right? So he can see things, and I thought, wow, you really lost it this time. Like it was that bad.
It was an RV park from top to bottom.
And the buildings were all beaten up, and it was pillaged because everybody took everything of value out, including plumbing pipe and you name it. So I really just thought he had lost his noggin. And then slowly, we built a team and we rebuilt it, and it, one thing led to a next, and next thing we started camps in 99, and then here we are. Like, it's crazy.
25 years later.
Yeah, and how beautiful, like how many lives have been impacted through the years. One summer we had 7 camps. I mean, times 100 kids on the average.
I can't believe we used to do 5 camps a
summer. I can't believe it either.
I don't know how we did it.
I know.
I must have been a lot younger at the time, because it was a lot.
I was definitely a lot younger, and I was so committed to it, and it definitely was my passion for a very long time.
I will say that I have a lot of great things in my life, but if anybody knows me, they know that this is by far my favorite thing to do.
No, I'd love
to come to camp. I don't care how much work it is.
Mm-hmm.
The people that are here, the kids that we touch, and it's all because of the Torino Foundation. Not, we're Sunshine Nevada now, but it was the Torino Foundation that kind of, went one way. The Torino Foundation went another way, but we are the Torino Foundation.
Yeah.
So without the Torino Foundation, I don't know what I'd be doing with my life. It's kind of sad to think. I'm not sure I'd be doing anything quite as impactful or as beautiful. So I'm forever thankful.
I believe in like that, the unfolding, and where we end up is where we're supposed to be. So, this is by no mistake. There's no mistakes, I don't think. And so this is, exactly what's supposed to be going on up here. And this ranch has been given the opportunity to give back the way that it does too. And it's just extraordinary when I look at it now. I look at all the trees and I look at how well it's established, and there's been lots of years where we've had so many challenges, and so that it's still standing, and it's here for a home for our camps. I just love it. I love it. I love the whole feeling behind it.
Look forward to coming here each and every year.
So what would you say to the listener that I think I'm trying to help people understand that autism is not a scary thing, that you can get online and really understand it easily too, because there's a lot of organizations that help educate everyone. There is a very large spectrum, and I won't say that there aren't some extraordinary developmental challenges when it comes to some individuals, but that's the smallest percentile. And so what message would you part with, if you could say anything to the listeners out there about your experience? And obviously you've shared what it's done for you, but to inspire people to really take a chance, take a leap of faith, and find that place that they're looking for. But this might be their place. So what is that? What does that sound like to you?
Yeah, that's a good one. With the numbers growing, you never know when it's going to show up in your family. And so when you're looking at when you're looking at the kids or the young adults that are impacted by autism, treat them as you would want somebody to treat your own kid.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good message for every part of life, but certainly with kids and young adults who have developmental disabilities, treat them how you would want others to treat your child, with love, with understanding, with kindness. There's nothing to be scared of. Nobody's here to hurt you. They're not here to hurt you. 9 times out of 10, they're not going to even be aware of your thoughts or of your presence, right? And so when you decide to make an impact in their life, that's when they'll become aware of you. And it's usually a positive experience. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a positive experience. That 1 time out of 10, there won't be an experience. We've had thousands of kids come through this camp. We don't have real problems. We really do not have real problems. The problems are he's not eating, or he got sick because he ate the foam in the
foam pit.
The foam pit. These are not real. These are not real
problems. Blowing bubbles.
Treat them as you would want your kid to be treated, but treat them like any other child.
Yeah.
That's all they want, is just be treated like a kid, you know?
Great message.
That's what I would tell them.
Yeah, great message. I mean it. You
Thanks.
hit it home. I think that, just to say to people out there, you never know when it's going to show up in your family. Puts things in perspective. This is not uncommon anymore. And I think we just need to learn to be more accepting of it. So thank you. Thank you for joining us on the Be 100% podcast show. If you would like to get involved in any way, volunteer, donate to any of the organizations that we've had as guests on this show, please look at the description below. Definitely like us, love us actually, or follow us even better. And we look forward to delivering the next episode to you, so stay tuned.